The conference room had floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking downtown San Francisco. 12 people around the table. Our executive team, 3 potential investors from Redwood Ventures, and me, the senior product architect, who'd spent 6 months building what we were about to present. My manager, Derek Hamilton, stood at the front of the room with the presentation deck pulled up behind him. My presentation deck. The one I'd sent him yesterday for review. Except now his name was on the title slide where mine should have been. "Good morning, everyone," Derek started, his confident smile aimed at the investors. "I'm excited to walk you through the innovative AI-powered analytics platform we've developed. This represents 6 months of intensive work, and I believe it's going to transform how enterprises handle predictive modeling." I sat 3 seats down from him, laptop closed in front of me, watching. Every slide that appeared behind him was mine. Every data visualization, every architectural diagram, every market analysis. Work I'd created, often late at night after everyone else had gone home, pulling together technical capabilities with business value in a way that would resonate with investors. Derek was presenting it like he'd built it himself. "The core innovation here," Derek continued, clicking to a technical architecture slide, "is the way we've integrated machine learning models with real-time data processing. Traditional platforms require batch processing, which creates lag time. Our approach processes data streams in real time, allowing for immediate, predictive insights." Sarah Winters, the lead investor from Redwood Ventures, leaned forward slightly. She was in her 50s, with the kind of sharp attention that missed nothing. "That's impressive. Can you walk us through the technical implementation? Specifically, how are you handling the computational overhead of real-time ML inference?" Derek hesitated for just a fraction of a second. "It's about optimizing the model architecture and leveraging distributed computing. We've streamlined the inference pipeline to minimize latency," which was technically true but completely surface level. The actual answer involved novel approaches to model quantization, edge computing integration, and a custom caching layer I'd designed specifically to solve this problem. Derek clearly didn't understand the details because he hadn't built them. I had. Sarah's colleague, James Park, spoke up next. "And how does this compare to existing solutions from established players? What's your competitive advantage?" "Great question," Derek said, clicking to my competitive analysis slide. "The established solutions are either focused on batch processing, which is too slow, or they sacrifice accuracy for speed. We've achieved both speed and accuracy through our unique architectural approach." "Can you elaborate on that unique approach?" James pressed. Derek paused again. It's a combination of factors. The ML models, the data infrastructure, the way we've integrated various components into a cohesive platform." He was struggling. These weren't rehearsed talking points he could regurgitate. These were technical questions that required actual understanding of the work. Understanding he didn't have because he hadn't done the work. I watched Sarah exchange a glance with James. A small, almost imperceptible communication between experienced investors who'd seen countless pitches. Something wasn't adding up for them. Derek pushed forward. "What I'm most proud of is how we've positioned this for market entry. The enterprise space is ready for this kind of innovation, and our go-to-market strategy leverages existing client relationships while targeting high-growth sectors." "Who developed the technical architecture?" Sarah asked suddenly, her eyes moving from Derek to scan the rest of the room. "I'd like to hear from the engineering lead about implementation challenges." This was the moment. Derek's face flickered with something: panic, calculation, annoyance, before settling back into confidence. "I led the technical development, working closely with our engineering team. Maya Chen, our senior product architect, handled some of the implementation details. Some of the implementation details. 6 months of work reduced to some of the implementation details." Every eye in the room turned to me. Sarah's gaze was particularly intent. "Ms. Wide. Chen, would you mind sharing your perspective on the technical challenges you encountered during implementation?" I could feel Derek's tension from across the room. This wasn't part of his plan. He'd expected to present, take credit, and secure funding while I sat silently in the background. I smiled politely at Sarah. "I'm happy to discuss technical architecture. Though I should clarify, I didn't just handle implementation details. I designed and built the entire platform that Derek's presenting." The room went very quiet. Derek's face did something interesting. Tried to stay composed, but couldn't quite manage it. Maya, that's not exactly accurate. This was a collaborative effort. You're right that it was collaborative, I said, my voice calm and professional. I collaborated with the engineering team, with data scientists, with UX designers. I sent you progress updates every week for 6 months. You provided feedback on business positioning and occasionally suggested client use cases. But the technical architecture, the ML implementation, the real-time processing pipeline, the competitive analysis, that was my work. Sarah leaned back in her chair, studying both of us. I see. Derek, when you said you led the technical development, what specifically did you mean? Before I tell you what happened next, you need to understand something about this moment. I'd spent 6 months building something extraordinary. Not just technically sound, but genuinely innovative. The kind of work that could define a career. And watching Derek present it as his own, watching him stumble through questions about technical details he didn't understand, I had a choice. I could stay quiet, let him take credit, and avoid conflict. Or I could let the truth speak for itself, and trust that the people in this room were smart enough to see what was happening. If you've ever had someone steal your work, if you've watched credit for your ideas get claimed by someone else, if you've been expected to smile and accept it for the sake of being a team player, stay with me. Because what these investors were about to do was something I couldn't have orchestrated. They just needed to see what was real. My name is Maya Chen, and I've been the senior product architect at Cipher Analytics for 3 years. I joined the company when there were 15 people in a cramped office working on basic data analytics tools for small businesses. Over 3 years, we'd grown to 50 employees, expanded our client base, and we're now looking for Series B funding to scale. I was good at what I did. Really good. I had a master's degree in computer science from Stanford, 5 years of experience in ML engineering, and a track record of building platforms that actually work. I understood both the technical depth required to build sophisticated systems and the business context needed to make them valuable. Derek Hamilton had been hired as VP of Product 8 months ago. He came from a business background, had an MBA from a good school, was great at networking and presenting. He was also exactly the kind of manager who saw other people's work as raw material for his own advancement. The pattern had started small. I'd present an idea in a meeting. Derek would nod along. Then later that day I'd hear him presenting the same idea to executives as if it was his insight. I'd write a strategy document. Derek would add his name to it and send it to leadership. Small enough things that calling them out seemed petty. Then 6 months ago, our CEO, Richard Torres, announced that we were going to pursue Series B funding. To do that, we needed a flagship product that would demonstrate our technical capabilities and market potential. Something that would make investors excited about our future. Richard had asked me directly to lead the development. Maya, I need you to build something extraordinary. Something that shows we're not just another analytics company. You have 6 months and whatever resources you need. Make it happen. I'd spent those 6 months living and breathing this platform. Researching competitive solutions, identifying gaps in the market, designing novel approaches to real-time ML inference, building prototypes, testing, iterating, documenting everything. I'd work nights, weekends, and early mornings. Not because anyone forced me to, but because I was building something I was proud of. Derek, as VP of Product, was technically my manager. So, I'd kept him updated. Weekly emails with progress reports. Occasional meetings to discuss business positioning. Requests for feedback on go-to-market strategy. He'd been minimally involved. A few comments here and there, mostly about surface-level business concerns. Then 2 weeks ago, Richard had asked Derek to present the platform to potential investors. Derek, I need you to put together a compelling pitch for Redwood Ventures. Maya's done incredible technical work, but we need someone who can speak their language about market opportunity and business value. I had understood the logic. Derek was good at pitching. I was better at building. It made sense to have him present, with me there for technical backup. What I didn't expect was that Derek would present the work as his own. Yesterday I'd sent him the final presentation deck. Comprehensive slides covering technical architecture, competitive analysis, market positioning, implementation roadmap, and financial projections. My name was on the title slide as lead architect and presenter. This morning, when Derek pulled up the deck in the conference room, his name was on the title slide. And mine was nowhere to be seen. Back in the conference room, Sarah Winters was still waiting for Derek's answer to her question about what exactly he meant by leading the technical development. I oversaw the product strategy and business direction, Derek said finally. Maya handled the technical execution. Handled the technical execution, Sarah repeated slowly. So the ML architecture, the real-time processing approach, the competitive analysis, Maya built all of that? It was a team effort. I'm asking specifically about the work presented in this deck. Who created the technical architecture diagrams on slide 7? Maya did, Derek admitted. And the implementation roadmap on slide 12? Maya 12. The market analysis on slide 15? Also Maya.t. So, when you say you led the technical development, you actually mean Maya developed the technology while you... Derek's face was getting red. I provided strategic direction. I ensured alignment with business objectives. I managed stakeholder expectations. James Park spoke up. Derek, I've been in this business for 20 years. I know the difference between someone who built something and someone who's presenting something they don't fully understand. The questions we asked earlier about computational overhead and competitive advantage, your answers were surface level. When we asked Ms. Chen, are her answers going to be different? All eyes back on me. Yes, I said simply. My answers will be different because I can explain exactly how the system works, because I built it. Sarah nodded. Then, I'd like to hear from you, Ms. Chen. Please walk us through the technical architecture in your own words, with whatever level of detail you think is relevant. I opened my laptop, pulled up my working version of the deck, the one with detailed technical notes that I'd use for internal reviews, and stood up. Derek remained standing for a moment, uncertain, before awkwardly sitting down in the seat I'd vacated. For the next 45 minutes I presented my work. Not Derek's simplified business speak version. My version. The real technical innovation, the challenges I'd solved, the novel approaches I'd taken, the competitive advantages that weren't just marketing claims but actual architectural decisions. I explained how I designed a custom model quantization technique that reduced inference time by 73% without sacrificing accuracy. How I integrated edge computing to handle real-time processing at scale. How I'd built a catching layer that predicted data access patterns and preloaded relevant models. The investors asked questions, hard, technical questions, and I answered them with specificity and depth, because I'd done the work. I knew every line of code, every architectural decision, every trade-off I'd made. Sarah and James took notes, asked follow-up questions, pushed on implementation timelines and scaling challenges. Real technical due diligence from investors who actually understood what they were looking at. Derek sat in the corner, looking smaller by the minute. When I finished, Sarah closed her notebook and looked at Richard Torres, our CEO, who'd been sitting silently through this entire exchange. Richard, I'd like to speak with you privately for a moment. Maya, please join us. Derek, thank you for your time. The dismissal was polite but absolute. We moved to a smaller conference room. Just Sarah, James, Richard, and me. The door closed behind us. Richard, Sarah said, I'm going to be direct. That presentation was extraordinary. The technical work Maya's done is exactly the kind of innovation we look for. But the dynamic we just witnessed is concerning. Richard looked uncomfortable. I can explain. Let me finish. We've seen this pattern before. A company builds something valuable, but there's confusion or dispute about who actually built it. That's a red flag. If we invest and 6 months from now, Maya leaves because she's tired of not getting credit for her work, what are we investing in? James added, the technology is impressive. Maya's presentation was one of the most technically sophisticated pitches we've seen this year. But Derek's attempt to take credit for work he clearly didn't do raises questions about your company's culture and leadership. Richard was quiet for a long moment. Then he looked at me. Maya, I owe you an apology. I asked Derek to present because I thought he'd be better at the business pitch. I didn't realize he was going to present it as his own work. Did you see the deck before today? I asked. No. I trusted Derek to put together something appropriate. The deck I sent Derek yesterday had my name on it. The deck he presented today had his name. That wasn't an accident. Richard's jaw tightened. No, it wasn't. Sarah leaned forward. Richard, here's what we're prepared to offer. We're interested in investing, but we have conditions. First, Maya needs to be formally recognized as the creator and lead architect of this platform. Not just internally, but in all external communications, pitch materials, and investor documents. Second, we want clarity on her equity stake and role going forward. Third, we need to understand how you're going to address what just happened with Derek. We're investors, James said, but we're also people who've built companies. We know that great technology comes from great people. Maya is clearly a great talent. If you want our investment, we need to know you understand her value and will protect it. Richard looked at me again. Maya, what do you want? It was a good question. What did I want? I wanted recognition for 6 months of work. I wanted my name on the thing I'd built. I wanted to not have to watch mediocre managers claim credit for work they didn't do. I wanted a company culture where technical excellence mattered as much as presentation skills. I want a few things, I said carefully. First, I want the title and role that reflects what I actually do. I'm not just a senior product architect. I'm the principal technical architect who builds the platforms this company sells. Second, I want equity that reflects that contribution. Third, I want reporting structure that doesn't put me under managers who see my work as their raw material for advancement. Done, Richard said immediately. Principal technical architect, equity adjustment, and you'll report directly to me. What else? I want this to be the last time something like this happens. Not just to me, but to anyone at this company. When people build things, they get credit. When people present things they didn't build, they don't get pretend they did. Sarah smiled slightly. I like her. She's thinking like a founder. What a entry. Over the next hour, we discussed terms. Redwood Ventures committed to a $15 Series B investment, contingent on the conditions Sarah had outlined. Richard agreed to all of them. We drafted a term sheet that included specific language about my role, equity, and recognition. When we finally left that conference room, Derek was waiting in the hallway. He'd clearly been there the entire time, trying to figure out what was happening behind closed doors. Maya, he said as I walked past. I think there's been a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding, I said calmly. The investors asked who built the platform. I told them the truth. That's all that happened. You made me look incompetent in front of them. Derek, you made yourself look incompetent when you couldn't answer basic technical questions about work you claimed to lead. I just filled in the gap. I'm your manager. You should have supported me in there. You're right that you're my manager. For now. But supporting you doesn't mean letting you take credit for 6 months of my work. If you wanted to present the platform, you should have presented it honestly. Maya built this incredible technology and I'm here to discuss the business value. That would have been fine. Instead, you put your name on my work and tried to claim credit you didn't earn. His face was red again. Richard's going to hear about this. Richard already knows. He was in the meeting when the investors made their investment conditional on me being properly recognized and compensated. So, yes, Richard will definitely hear about this. From multiple people. I walked away before he could respond. The next day, Richard called an all-company meeting. 50 employees gathered in our main workspace, curious about the announcement everyone knew was coming. I want to share some good news, Richard started. We've secured Series B funding from Redwood Ventures, $15 million to help us scale the incredible technology we've been building. Applause from the team. The investment is based on the platform that Maya Chen has spent the past 6 months developing. This is genuinely innovative work, the kind of technical achievement that positions us as a leader in real-time ML analytics. He gestured for me to stand. I did, awkwardly, while my colleagues clapped. I also want to announce some organizational changes. Maya is being promoted to Principal Technical Architect and will be leading all major technical development going forward. She'll be reporting directly to me, and she'll have expanded equity to reflect her contributions to this company. More applause. I saw several of my engineering colleagues smiling genuinely, happy to see good work recognized. Finally, Richard said, and his tone shifted slightly, I want to address something important about culture. This company succeeds because of the people who do the work. The engineers who write code, the designers who create experiences, the analysts who find insights. When someone builds something extraordinary, they deserve recognition for that work. Not credit sharing, not vague team attributions. Direct, specific recognition. He paused. Yesterday, during our investor presentation, there was an incident where credit for Maya's work was not properly attributed. That's not acceptable. It won't happen again. We're implementing new policies to ensure that technical contributors are properly recognized in all external materials, presentations, and investor communications. I glanced over at Derek, who was standing at the back of the room, his face carefully neutral. Derek Hamilton will be transitioning out of his role as VP of Product, Richard continued. We appreciate his contributions and wish him well in his next position. The room was very quiet. Everyone understood what transitioning out meant. After the meeting, several colleagues approached me. Some offered congratulations, some shared their own stories of having work stolen or credit misattributed, some just saying it was good to see the right thing happen for once. Jake, a junior engineer who I'd mentored, pulled me aside. Maya, that took guts. Standing up in that meeting and telling the truth. I just answered questions honestly, I said. You did more than that. You showed us that it's possible to call out bullshit and have it actually matter. Most people just let it slide because it's easier. It wasn't about being brave, I said. It was about not being willing to watch 6 months of my work get stolen. Sometimes the cost of staying quiet is higher than the cost of speaking up. Over the next few weeks, Derek's transition progressed quickly. He was gone within 2 weeks, with a separation agreement and a promise not to disparage the company. I heard through the grapevine that he'd struggled to explain to prospective employers why he'd left so suddenly after less than a year. I, meanwhile, was building my team. Richard gave me budget to hire 2 senior ML engineers and a technical program manager. People who could help scale the platform I'd built and develop the next generation of capabilities. The Series B funding closed 6 weeks after the infamous investor meeting. Redwood Ventures put in their $15 and 2 other firms joined the round for an additional $8 million. Total raise, $23 million. Sarah Winters joined our board as part of the investment. In her first board meeting, she made a point of asking me to present the technical roadmap directly, rather than having Richard or anyone else present on my behalf. Maya, she said after my presentation, I want to tell you something. James and I see hundreds of pitches every year. Most of them are forgettable. Some are impressive technically, but poorly presented. Very few are both technically sophisticated and presented by someone who clearly understands every aspect of what they've built. Your presentation was one of those rare pitches. Thank you. Money. I also want you to know that what happened with Derek, that kind of credit theft, is more common than it should be. Especially for women in technical roles, especially for people of color. The fact that you stood up for yourself and that the company responded appropriately, that's meaningful. It's part of why we invested. 3 months after the funding closed, I was working late in the office when Richard stopped by my desk. Maya, got a minute? Sure. He sat down. I wanted to check in on how things are going. The team, the roadmap, the new hires. Everything's good. We're on track for the Q4 launch. The new engineers are ramping up quickly, and client demos have been generating good interest. Good. I also wanted to say something I should have said more clearly before. I'm sorry for what happened with Derek. I should have been more careful about who I gave authority to. I should have made sure you were getting proper credit from the beginning. I didn't, and that's on me. I appreciate that. When Sarah and James called out the culture issue in that meeting, they were right. We developed blind spots about attribution and recognition. You shouldn't have had to defend your own work in front of investors because your manager was trying to steal credit. That never should have happened. But it did happen. And when it did, you addressed it. That matters. I learned something from that experience, Richard said. The best technology doesn't come from managers who coordinate work. It comes from people like you who build things. My job is to create an environment where people like you can do your best work and get recognized for it. I failed at that. I won't fail again. 6 months after the investor meeting, I got an unexpected LinkedIn message from Derek Hamilton. He'd found a new position at a different company, VP of Product at a smaller startup. Maya, I wanted to reach out and apologize for what happened at Cypher. I was under a lot of pressure to deliver results, and I made a mistake in how I handled the investor presentation. I should have been clearer about your role and contributions. I'm sorry. I stared at the message for a while, trying to decide whether to respond. Finally, I wrote back, Derek, I appreciate the apology. What happened wasn't just a mistake in one presentation. It was a pattern of taking credit for other people's work. If you're serious about changing that, the apology shouldn't just be to me. It should be reflected in how you treat the people you work with going forward. Make sure the engineers and builders at your new company get credit for what they create. That's how you make it right. He never responded. But 6 months later, I saw him on a podcast talking about building great product teams and the importance of empowering technical talent. Maybe he learned something. Or maybe he just learned to say the right things. A year after the investor meeting, Cypher Analytics launched the platform publicly. We'd refined it, added features, integrated with popular enterprise tools, and built a sales process around it. The launch was successful. Coverage in tech press, interest from enterprise clients, validation of everything I'd spent 18 months building. My name was on the press releases, on the technical documentation, on the case studies we shared with prospective clients. Every single place where someone might look to understand who built this platform, they'd find my name. Sarah Winters sent me a message after the launch. Congratulations on the launch. Watching you build this over the past year has been one of the highlights of working with Cypher. You're going to have a remarkable career, Maya. Just keep being willing to stand up for yourself the way you did in that meeting. 2 years after the investor meeting, I was speaking at a technical conference about real-time ML architecture. After my talk, a young woman approached me. She was maybe 25, early in her career, nervous. Ms. Wan Chen, I wanted to ask you something. How do you handle it when people take credit for your work? I'm dealing with that at my company right now, and I don't know what to do. I thought about Derek, about that conference room, about the choice I'd made to tell the truth even though it was uncomfortable. Here's what I learned, I said. First, document your work thoroughly. Make sure there's a clear record of what you built and when you built it. Second, don't be afraid to correct the record when someone misattributes your work. It's not being difficult or political. It's being accurate. Third, find people who value builders over presenters. If your current environment doesn't value the people who do the actual work, find an environment that does. But what if I speak up and it backfires? What if I get fired or pushed out? That's a risk. But here's the question. What's the cost of staying silent? For me, the cost was watching 6 months of work get stolen. The cost was being invisible while someone else got credit for what I built. That cost was too high. So I spoke up. And yes, it was scary. But the alternative was accepting that my work didn't matter as much as someone else's presentation skills. What happened after you spoke up? The truth came out. The people who mattered, the investors, the CEO, saw what was real. The person who tried to steal credit lost his job. And I got recognition for the work I'd actually done. It wasn't guaranteed to work out that way. But staying silent definitely wasn't going to work out. She nodded slowly. Thank you. That helps. After she walked away, I thought about how many people face the same situation. Work stolen, credit misattributed, contributions minimized. And how many stay silent because speaking up feels too risky? The truth is, it is risky. There's no guarantee that truth will win out. That investors will ask the right questions. That CEOs will do the right thing. That justice will be served. But I learned something in that conference room when Derek tried to claim my work. Silence is a choice that has costs too. And sometimes the cost of silence is higher than the cost of truth. If you've stayed with me through this entire story, I want you to understand something. This isn't about revenge or destroying someone's career. Derek destroyed his own career when he tried to steal credit for work he didn't do. I just refused to pretend his lie was truth. What I learned from that experience: your work has value. The things you build, the problems you solve, the innovation you create, that matters. And you don't have to accept someone else claiming it as their own. The investors ask who built the platform. I told them the truth. That's all I did. The rest, Derek's firing, my promotion, the recognition, that was the consequence of truth meeting people who valued it. If you've ever had your work stolen, if you've watched someone else present your ideas as their own, if you've been told to be a team player while someone takes credit you earned, remember this: truth is powerful when delivered to people who care about truth. I let the silence breathe. I let the investors ask their questions. I answered honestly, and his face said everything they needed to know. If this resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe. Share your experiences in the comments about times you've had work stolen or times you've stood up for your contributions. Those stories matter because they help others find the courage to do the same. Remember, he stole my work in front of everyone. I didn't argue or fight. I just let the people who mattered ask questions. And the truth took care of the rest.